Hey everybody, channel's called Driving Home. I'm Lamont and welcome to another one of my videos. So today I thought it would be fun to give you a tour of the inside living space of my 2014 E350 Ford box truck. So here in the most forward left-hand side of the living space, just behind the driver's seat, I have my 95-quart Dometic dual zone refrigerator. The one side is set up as a freezer and the other side is set up as a refrigerator. And as far as I know, it may be one of the biggest ones that Dometic sells, and it's worked out great for me. At times, I even think it would be nice to have a little more storage in the refrigerator side. Behind it, I have a pop-up tent that I could take outdoors and use it either for a shower tent or a toilet tent. I've never used it yet, but I just thought it would be nice to have. Next to that, I have another fan. In addition to the Max Air fan I have in the wall between the living space and the garage, I have this one set up where I can actually hang it above the pass-through door and pull air in from the driving section. So directly above the refrigerator cooler, I have 4 containers that store all of my kitchen utensils, paper plates, regular plates, and all the gadgetry I might use in the way of cooking. And directly below the refrigerator cooler is a large plastic container that has all my pots and pans. And I keep a trash can right here by the pass-through door, which I can use while I'm driving. I can also reach back and throw things away. Between my refrigerator and my kitchen countertop, I have a storage area for 2 cooktop stoves. One is a propane dual burner stove, and the other is an induction cooktop. Now, the propane stove really just serves as a backup, and it gives me an option to cook outdoors if I choose to. The induction cooktop is what I use most of the time in the rig. And to set it up, it's just as easy as pulling it out, setting it down, plugging it in, and once I turn on the inverter, I'm ready to cook. Moving to the front right side of the living space, directly behind the passenger seat of the rig, is where I have all my electronics connected and hooked up that runs the solar and the inverter, all the electrical. Below, what you see are 3 200 amp hour batteries for a total of 600 amp hours. On the roof, I have 915 watts of solar. And for the last year, it's been working flawlessly. In addition to the electrical, I recently added this small storage rack. Directly mounted on the wall here are some storage containers, might be a little out of frame. And then I have an electric heater to supplement my Propex, as well as my little buddy heater. So yes, I have 3 sources of heat if I need them. Moving just past the electrical, I have a display panel up here that has my weather station. I have a monitor for all my electrical, a remote on-off switch for my inverter, the remote for my Max Air fan that's mounted in the rear wall, and I have the on-off switch and thermostat for my Propex heater. Above the bed, I've also added a little bit of storage directly underneath the top shelf that allows me to store a jacket, and on the other end, an electrical blanket that's just held up with hooks and bungee cords. It's turned out to be a pretty convenient way to store a few extra items. So moving to the other end of the bed, you can see the Max Air fan I have mounted on the wall, as well as a light that I have. There's one on the front above the pass-through door, just like it. So on the shelf, just above my bed, I have 4 medium-sized containers that hold all my clothing. Again, right below that shelf, I have the bungeed in electric blanket that I mentioned. And of course, I'm sitting on the bed itself. It's a 6-inch thick memory foam mattress that I cut down from a 36-inch wide twin to 32 inches wide. The length at 72 inches was perfect for me since I'm just about 6 feet tall. This blue box is my Propex heater. It's sitting underneath the bunk, but it's mounted on top of the rear passenger side wheel well, and I drilled 2 holes in the wheel well to give access for the intake tube and the exhaust tube that go underneath the Propex heater. On this side of the Propex heater is where the propane is brought into the heater by way of a copper line that runs all the way into the garage area, where I have a 20-pound propane tank near the back doors. So it's easy to refill, it's easy to turn it on and off. And on this side, I have the hose that brings the warm air into the living space. It's a very simple design, and when it works nicely. Just below the bunk, I have some extra water storage because I'm traveling. And right behind that is my food storage. It's a very large container with the yellow lid on it. And next to that, I have 2 of these containers, again, like the ones on the upper shelves, except bigger, that store my clothes, towels, and different things, bed linens and such. Directly across the aisle from my bunk, and just below the kitchen countertop and partially below the cooler refrigerator, is where I store my water. I have 2 of these 6-gallon containers that I use for the sink. I have 1 5-gallon bottle that I use for drinking water. At least I will use it when I run out of all the smaller bottles. I have the white bucket there is for my shower water, and the bag sitting on top of it is what I would use if I was going to go inside a truck stop or a gym to take a shower. On the rear half of the living space on the driver's side is where I have my kitchen countertop. It's just a smooth countertop, and I have this collapsible bucket sitting on top to act as a sink. And along the bottom of that, as well as over here, is this shelf liner that anything I set on it, it doesn't slide off the countertop even when I'm driving. So this is just a dispenser that sits on top of the 5-gallon type of water jugs that has the pump and all the mechanism, the electronics built into it, and it's even rechargeable. So I was experimenting with it to see how well it would work as an electric faucet. And so far so good, but I will admit this is the second one I've installed, because it seems like after about 2 weeks the first one stopped working. So it may be too much for it to pull water roughly 10.5 feet through a hose to dispense the water here, where it's really designed to just sit right on top of the jug. So it may just be a little too much for the pump to handle over time. But I'm just playing around with it just to see if it works and how I like it. I have a dish rack here to dry dishes and pots and pans after I wash them, paper towels, knife holder, which, you know, with the magnetic strip. This thing works really well, and none of the knives fall off while I'm driving. I found this rack at a discount store that it started out as a wine rack, but I did some cutting and grinding on it and manipulated it to what you see here, and I think it works well to hold my soaps and my vinegar sprayer, as well as a couple of mugs. Found this at a thrift store, decided to use it as a spice rack. Again, keeping with the sort of metal theme, they kind of work well together. And below the countertop, let me show you some of my storage. So just below the kitchen countertop, I created some storage. I like putting the items that I have under here in these little black plastic crates to help keep things organized and from shifting around too much. So oftentimes I just have to reach in and grab whatever it is I might be looking for. And what I also did here was created another shelf that I can use as additional cooking countertop space, or as an eating surface. After I've prepared my food, I'll have a surface that I can set up like a TV tray. And it uses these metal poles here. I just pull them out, and then I can set this on top, and it provides a comfortable eating space. But normally I'm sitting on the bed, so I sit a little higher than I'm sitting now. But yeah, this works out pretty good. And that's going to conclude the tour of the living space inside my rig. When I get an opportunity, I'll be happy to do a tour of the garage area, kind of show you what I've got going on back there. But until then, I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in and watching. Thank you to all of the new subscribers, and we'll see you in the next video.